Hi, everyone. My name is Anissa Asaibi George. Thanks for tuning in. This discussion is part of my Community Impact Series, where I join Boston residents and those working here in the city to bring awareness about their work. I believe that the best way to find solutions to our most pressing issues is by making sure that everyone has a seat at the table. Today, I'm excited to be joined by our local Boston EMS practitioners for a conversation about their services here in Boston, as well as to celebrate National EMS Week. And it's a celebration across the country, but I'm especially proud of those that serve in their capacity as EMTs and paramedics and those that are doing the work to support that work as a part of Boston EMS. Our practitioners, those that are with us today, are always on the front line, providing critical care to Boston's residents on a regular basis, but especially through the COVID-19 pandemic. You know, we know for sure, and especially over this last year, our Boston EMS has continued to show up. There has never been a moment of time where they haven't been on the front lines, where they've been able to stay home or do their work virtually. We know that they have to do it and have to do it in person. So I'm so excited to have Felicia, Roger, and Pat with us today to talk about their work and how they are Boston EMTs, how they are part of the Boston EMS service, but sort of the different aspects and what they bring to the table. So I'm going to get started and let each of them introduce themselves, tell a little bit about their work, and maybe, you know, what drew you to EMS and to become a member of this great service. If you don't mind, I'm going to start with Felicia.
Hi, I'm Felicia Hickey. I've been on Boston EMS for about almost 16 years now. Growing up in the city, I always saw the ambulances go by and always wondered about, you know, actually doing the job. I wanted to be a doctor initially, but, you know, that didn't pan out. But I found this and I loved it. And so I stuck with it. And now I'm technically off the truck, reassigned as the health and wellness coordinator for the department. So I put together all the PT for the academy. We do all the classes throughout the department, such as like CrossFit, bar, yoga. We have HIIT. We do golf, all kind of things that we're doing now, trying to make everyone a little bit healthier, stronger, and happier for the department.
No, it's really great. Felicia, I've had the pleasure of joining a few of your sessions and was recently at one of your recruit classes as they participated in Zumba. And, you know, it's about physical fitness. It's about, sort of engaging, especially the recruits in the work and building that community. So I'm grateful for all that you do, and I'm grateful that you're here with us today to talk about your work. Roger, I'd love you to introduce yourself to us and tell us a little bit about you and your work.
Hi everyone, Roger Hamlet. I worked at Boston EMS. I've been here for 9 years. Actually Juneteenth, which is June 19th, will be 9 years at Boston EMS. I worked in the Special Operations Division where I'm assigned. However, I also operate as the president of the United Coalition of EMS Providers, which is a nonprofit organization that is tasked with creating equality and inclusion within Boston EMS. One of our major concepts is to make the job more equitable for everyone across the board. With that being said, I'll pass it over to the Lieutenant Calter.
Thanks, Roger, and we'll pass over to Pat, Lieutenant Calter, who I've got to do a great deal of work with around some of the emotional wellness efforts that Boston EMS provides to its EMTs and paramedics. But Pat, introduce yourself and talk a little bit about your work.
Hello, good afternoon. My name is Pat Calter. I'm the coordinator of the peer support unit here at Boston EMS, which I've had the privilege of being since 2017. When Lieutenant Femmel already retired. I've been a member of the team far longer. I started with Boston EMS in 2007, which was a short time after I left Morrissey Boulevard at BC High and joined Boston EMS. I didn't go far. I went about 2 miles. So it was a pretty quick transition. I had been here for about 3 years before my 21st birthday. So to say I've grown up here to an extent is the truth. So now I've transitioned into the peer support role, and to me, it's the most rewarding part of working here, because we all treat people, we treat citizens and residents of the city of Boston, but my role is more capacity of treating those that work here. And that's become very rewarding, and also in the last year, significantly more challenging than we ever could have imagined. So thanks for having us.
No, that's great, Lieutenant Calter, and I appreciate you bringing up sort of the challenges of this last year. And as I mentioned just in my opening comments, Boston EMS, you aren't able to do your work virtually. You aren't able to tune in via Zoom and provide the services and the care that you do every single day for the people of Boston. Pat, will you talk a little bit maybe about how your work has changed during this last year, if you think about pre-COVID to COVID, and now as we're hopefully on sort of the other side of COVID, what's next?
To guess what's next would be probably impossible. But what we did know 18 months ago, roughly, was that we weren't going to fare this storm unless we changed everything we knew about treating and helping our membership. And that's why you see folks like Felicia here. This was us calling an audible in a time of crisis and saying we need to keep our membership engaged, and we need to keep them healthy through healthy coping mechanisms. So what we did is created a program with Felicia's leadership, and we capitalized on our members having actually more time than they've ever had, probably in their professional careers. There's nothing going on other than work and your home life. Everything else was closed for a long period of time. And we could either sit home and dwell about it and not stay well about it, or we could get them out and get them moving. And Counselor, you participated fairly early on in this program, and you saw it. It had to keep some life in the membership. We had to keep people in garages or out in public or out in snowstorms doing Zumba with music blasting. Although it looks ridiculous to the person driving by, our world didn't stop in public safety. We had to continue working. So we had to create some normalcy for our membership, and that was through the health and wellness program. And then to put on top of that, our world doesn't stop. The trauma and effects of working in public safety doesn't stop. Addiction and mental health issues don't stop. And what was unfortunate is a majority of the services that we used did. They closed. So we really, really had to do some first aid, essentially. We weren't fixing the problem. We were just kind of kicking the can down the road, treating what we could, and having a subacute place to really help folks help themselves in the interim, which was health and wellness. So that program has grown in the year under Felicia's leadership tenfold. And she'll go into all of that. That's something that she should be proud of. And she's really, I can see the direct effects in utilization of services and recovery of folks by having a subacute level for them to belong to and believe in. So it has changed. We do change slightly our approach. We did go virtual for some stuff, and that was our clinicians who were in this wall behind me in the basement. They did deliver services virtual for members that didn't or couldn't come in, or that were home isolating because they were ill. So we went to a platform called DoxyMe, which is similar to something like this, but it's used by prescribers and doctors. It's slightly more secure and compliant for insurance type of information. But what we found is it dissolved a lot of barriers. Nobody had to come in and cross the threshold of a brick and mortar building to receive services. So we actually saw an increase in people that we had never seen before. So that was an opportunity that didn't fall on deaf ears, and we're going to keep that in place as an option for a long time. So I think it's changed us for sure. Where we're going to go to answer your question, I'm not sure how we'll come out of this, but what I do know is we have a workforce that is tired but still active, and their head is in the right place. So I have great hope for what will look like coming out the other end, and I hope we come out stronger than we went in. We'll see. Yeah,
no, certainly hope that, and appreciate the sort of that final commentary there, that you have a workforce that's tired, yet a workforce that continues to show up, continues to do the work, and continues to care for people who are experiencing trauma. And in particular, over this last year, really responding to the needs of our residents across the city that were in the greatest need. And, I offered some comments at the city council meeting this last week when we passed the resolution just recognizing EMS week, saying that, oftentimes you were the only one that was coming to the aid of someone who wasn't well, especially in the thick of COVID, in those very early months of the pandemic, because there was a lot of fear and there was a lot of concern, and, the care that you all and the rest of your EMTs and paramedics provided to people who were not well was really, oftentimes the only care and the only contact that they had. And, Felicia, through your work, I know both on the sort of the academy side, the recruit side, as well as some of these just general wellness activities that you're doing, especially through physical fitness. Can you talk about the relief that provides some of your membership and maybe how that's shifted over this last year as well?
As far as the recruits, the whole recruit process has been all over the place since COVID started. We had a class that started right before everything shut down, and the whole timing of the class and the way that little by little the world was shutting down. So that in itself was hard on them. They were coming in brand new, didn't know what to expect about the academy. They already had all these emotions about what to expect, and then everything was changing daily. There was never a set program with anything. It was constantly changing, and they had nothing to hold on to. And I started coming in at 4 a.m. for PT with them because everyone had to go into different schedules. So I would come in at 4. I had someone else come in at 2 p.m. We came in the evening. So there was always something for them to look forward to and know that was going to be stable in their academy. And that rolled over into kind of like the health and wellness program. We figured if we could have classes for everybody when the gyms were closed and they had no outlet to go and work out, because a lot of people did go and work out, we could get everybody together and still keep that alive. And it worked. We started having classes in the gym at TQI. We had classes in the garages, mainly River Street. We would go and have them outside. Anywhere we could, we would have a class. And more people started signing up for them. We opened it up to family and friends of people that work with us too, because they're not, the ones that work here aren't the only ones that are affected, especially with the whole COVID thing where we're constantly working, we're not around family. I would watch people's kids when they came, as long as they, could listen, I would watch them. So they would bring their kids because otherwise there was no way that they could work out. And I had no problem doing that. And once I said, yeah, bring your kids along, and people were so happy because now the kids had something to do. They could get out of the house and run around and exercise, and I had little weights for them, little kettlebells, and everybody loved it. But it's grown exponentially now. We have about 225 people that take part in the classes throughout the week. We have all different classes, and as people want to do something, we add it onto the schedule. Right now, it's myself and Chrissy, who also works with us. She's an EMT. She teaches the HIIT, yoga, bar, and she's starting a running club now. But as people want things to pop up as activities, we're just getting people to come along and do it. Mike Walker does golf. He does putt-putt, and he also does driving range, and soon we're going to have tea time. My sister, she does the Zumba or Socolicious, and that has become one of everybody's favorite things to do on a Tuesday night. They go there and they sweat off all kind of calories and just dance around the garage, and they love it. But as a whole, people have become dependent on this. They sign up the first day it comes out. All the classes are usually full. We have the recruits participating with badge members. So everybody's building a bond. And as they get badges or as they go into the field, they know people. So there's some kind of affiliation. So they don't feel ostracized or left alone, because they'll have all these older people that work here that have previously been here and know everybody. And then they're coming in brand new. So they have these bonds. Then they go out and see people like, hey, I know you. Will you go to class with me? And there's no difference between the captains and the lieutenants that come to class versus the recruits. So everybody's working out together, and we have all kind of races, anyone you can think of, all kind of ages. My aunts and my mother come to class and work out with people that are like 20, and they're pretty much destroying them. But it's great because it's just fun.
Yeah.
That it's a good program.
No, that's wonderful. And like really just building community, because the work is so hard, and you are treating people who are in crisis and who are in need. Roger, can you talk a little bit about, what that typical day is like, and thinking about, especially during COVID and pre-COVID, and are you seeing a shift now that things are starting to open up, the vaccine is out, there's much more information and knowledge around COVID in particular?
As I worked as a EMT in the Special Operations Division, we not typically, a typical day for us was normally just assisting crews in the field, hydration and anything that they would possibly need that you won't normally get in a regular ambulance when we get a response to your house. So we're the support units, as well as we kind of run all of the major details, and we're there at all major incidents. So that was our typical day. We kind of converted to more of a COVID response unit when COVID started, and because we had to be there to support just as well as the supervisors were in all COVID calls. We were literally working 16-hour days. We'll go home for 8 and come back for another 16 and rotate it that way. And it was just 3 of us in the Special Operation Division doing this. And this kind of pretty much ran for the entire year that we were dealing with the COVID crisis. So typically, as Lieutenant Calter said, we are tired, but we're still here. It's true. It's really great to see other stuff is happening within the city and within this department itself, because what Felicia does, she knows how important health and wellness is to me. I live my life by that code. So it's really good to see that, there's something here to help keep people healthy within this job. But with COVID-19 and the vaccine actually being out, we're trying to advocate for that as much as we can. And not because we want to force people to do something that they don't really want to do, but we understand that what we want, what we're looking for is to get as much as we can get back to normal as possible. And seeing that the vaccine is out there and a lot of people are getting it now, seeing some type of normalcy is really good to see. People are coming back outside and actually able to think about dropping the mask mandation and stuff like that. I think it's really important step in getting back to some type of normalcy. Within our department, we have seen where the vaccination itself bring down the numbers, which is something to open up eyes for everyone, where we're a small department, smaller than more of the other public agencies, but you can see the difference where we were literally going every week to week with someone being out, and now we really don't have that issue as much anymore. And I think that is a really important step to see, coming back to something that we expect to be what the new normal is.
Yeah, no, and the new normal, it's sort of back to the grind in a different way. And we know that COVID and infection and exposure had really impacted the force and all of your members, and the challenges that you face, and wanting to deliver high quality care to residents and also take care of yourself at the same time. What a challenge that might have been, must have been, not might have been. I know it was a great challenge over this last year, and sort of creating a lot of exhaustion, I'm sure, within sort of the ranks and those of you doing this really important work every day. Roger, can you talk a little bit about Yusuf and the work that you're doing there? I know that has grown out of this last year, and if you can talk a little bit about how it started and where you hope to bring it.
So Yusuf is a acronym for the United Coalition of EMS Providers. We created this after an open forum that we had, and that was following the massive protests and all of the struggles that came within that protest here in Boston. We all know that it didn't end well. It created a lot of issues for a lot of people, not just us, but the police and the fire department as well, where they had to put out fires and car fires and stuff like that. So with the struggle that we had there, we decided that some of our department members need to understand why people actually come out and try to protest as much as they can to try to create equality. And those are the good points, but then we also had the bad points where they destroy our city. So we wanted to talk about that and bring our members together to actually, have a powwow so we can discuss this and we all can walk away from this feeling comfortable that, no one is judged. And after that forum, we know there needed to be a little bit more done. So I decided that I'm going to work towards creating a nonprofit organization, which a bunch of other people that work with me on the forum, we come together and decided that this was a good fit for us. Just like the police would have Mamio and the Vulcans of the fire department. So after having some discussions with them as well, we went the route of a nonprofit organization and came up with the name United Coalition of EMS Providers. Our goal is not just to be within Boston EMS, but to create equality for EMS on the whole. Because if you look around the city and the country itself, there's not a lot of people of color as EMTs. Boston EMS is getting there. We're growing, and working with what we do to make it equitable for everyone. I think we can pull in a lot more people who intend to work in these fields, creating education and building opportunities for people who actually work here, not just to be an EMT and feel comfortable in their job, but also have opportunities to be promoted as well. With all that we've been doing, we had a meeting with the former mayor, Marty Welch, last year, and after that meeting, we came up with a paramedic scholarship process that would assist. And the reason why, first of all, the reason why we needed this scholarship process, to become a paramedic at Boston EMS, you first have to be an EMT, but you also, it's a promotion. So to get that promotion, you have to have a paramedic ticket. In order to get that paramedic ticket, you have to go to school, and it is a pretty high cost, up to $10,000 and more at times. Our intentions is not just to give someone a paramedic ticket, but also make an associate so they can actually use that paramedic scholarship and build their education upon that, just that associate degree. So we partner up with Bunker Hill Community College and was able to get at least 16 people of color an opportunity to become a paramedic to get a paramedic ticket, and then they can apply to become a paramedic at Boston EMS when that opportunities come. But you would also have opportunities to go to school and further your education and take something else within your reach of public safety as well, with that education, and probably a bachelor's degree as well. So.
No, that's great, and I'm impressed by so much that all that you've been able to do in just less than a year, pulling all these pieces together and really doing some great things. Now, Pat or Felicia, can we talk a little bit about anyone that might be watching today that might have an interest in becoming an EMT or a paramedic? Any advice, recommendations, thoughts? Pat, you became, I think when you introduced yourself, I don't think I realized this, you joined Boston EMS at a very young age. What drew you to it, and what recommendations do you have for anyone that might be watching and who might be interested?
Well, if you're familiar with BC High and Morrissey Boulevard, there's a rotary at the top there, and I had to go 3/4 of the way around to get home, and I didn't, and I ended up here. But I think it's interesting because Felicia and I come from opposite spectrums. Felicia went to college and then went to college 3 more times after that, and I didn't. And so I think it kind of speaks, we both did well here, and we both have made our own niches in this organization. And as to Roger's point, there is a place here for everybody. And, there is, I think this organization, especially over the last few years, probably decades, has grown in good ways. We constantly bring in classes from completely diverse backgrounds. And I think it's the best left turn I took. I think, honestly, I don't think I could have planned it. I don't think my brain had the capacity at 19 years old or 18 years old to know what it would have been. But it was the best decision I ever made. And you can make a great living here. You can have and do a lot of fulfilling work. You can see a lot of places that the general public doesn't see. You're gonna have a lot of heartache. There's a lot of bad stuff that goes on in this world, in this city. It's unlike, it's just like every other city. But if you commit up front, and we commit up front as an organization to treating ourselves the way that we treat our patients, you can come in the door, have a successful career, and leave as healthy, if not healthier, than you did 32 years prior. And that's the goal. The goal is you're going to come here, you're going to continue to grow. I spent some of my teens, I spent all of my 20s, and I'll hopefully be out of here in my early 50s, healthy and happy. And I don't have any college debt, and that's pretty good. I like that. So, I think it's the best job around, and it's not the highest paying job, but it's certainly a comfortable living, and we can work on everything else.
No, that's great. Thanks, Pat. And Felicia, I don't know about all of these degrees. So if you'd share sort of your trajectory and what brought you to this point, other than an interest, obviously, in medicine, as you mentioned in your opening remarks. But, talk to me about any advice or recommendations for anyone watching that may have an interest in joining Boston EMS.
So my background was, I initially went to school for pre-med, and I found out that I liked languages and public safety better. So I ended up getting an undergrad in Spanish and Latin American studies, did some studies abroad. I came back and I got a master's in criminal justice and substance abuse disorders at, where did I go? Suffolk. Sorry. See, it doesn't even matter because I'm here now, and the degrees mean absolutely nothing except that, but which is paid off because of the job. But I've always been interested in athletics and lifting and things like that. And so when I found the opportunity to get into that here with the two things that I love, being an EMT and athletics, and CrossFit, I kind of jumped on it as soon as I could. But for anyone who is from the city or is interested in being an EMT, this is probably the place for you to be. We can't promise it's always going to be the hot one or the big one. And most of the time it's not. It's the mundane. But there's always that call that will stick with you. And even if it's just helping grandma into her bed at night, there's a lot of fulfilling things that we do. And I think that's the most important part of being here. You have to be willing, and it has to be, it's like an innate thing that you have to want to help people. Even if you don't think you have it, if you can stick it out here, you'd have it. It's part of you. Because if you don't, you won't last very long. You'll see it's not for you, or you'll just move on, or that's it. But the people who stick around here for a long time, they're helpers, and they're always going to be helpers. And I think they've always been that way, just didn't know it. So it's worth it if you're interested. That
description of calling, members of Boston EMS helpers, and it's a true dedication to public service and helping those that are in need. In preparation for our resolution the other day at the City Council, we're looking up some of the data, and we're in the midst of our budget cycle, our budget process, so we'll be looking closer at the numbers at that hearing next week. But there's, I think over the last year, you've all responded to 125,000 calls, done 73,000 transports. And again, it's, certainly each transport, each call, each interaction with a resident or a visitor to the city, every response to a call is along a spectrum of, from the, as you mentioned, the mundane or the simple and not so exciting to the traumatic and dramatic and very intense, and, leads to, supporting someone who is in significant crisis and really, truly needs help. Roger, over your last 9 years, and then specifically around your work to Yusuf, you are, I think, constantly promoting this idea of professional development, of growth within the field, especially for our communities of color who are engaged in this work. How do you grow diversity? How do you encourage promotion and diversity within promotion and growth in the field? You talk a little bit about, how do you encourage people who want to maybe explore this career to get involved and know that there's a place for them at Boston EMS?
So we know that public safety within Boston, within the city of Boston, is some of the better jobs when it comes to the pay scales. So all three public safety agencies, you can do pretty well working in these jobs. They're pretty much family sustaining jobs. And what I would like to see is more opportunities for Boston city residents. And that is knowledge of knowing what these jobs actually have to offer. Boston EMS is a really good one when it comes to looking out and reaching out to the community and getting them, trying to put out some awareness out there as to what this job is about and how you can get involved. We've been doing that for a long time. Try to get people aware of what Boston EMS does. We are EMTs, and certainly most of us have to be an EMT in order to be a paramedic. But we are EMTs, and we do care about the city. We do care about the people we work with. We do care about the people who work around us. So it's one of the big things about what we do that keep us here every day doing the same job every day. It can be sometimes challenging as a person when you're coming into work and some of the same thing that you're dealing with every single day. But we come in and treat everyone differently because everyone needs to be treated special, right? We treat everyone with that special treatment, and that is for that person in that moment. Not everyone is having a big bad medical problem. Some people just need someone to talk to, but we will treat them like, you know, that problem is the big bad one for them in that moment. That's what we do here at Boston EMS. That one makes us really good at what we do. With that being said, being able to be an EMT and be an EMT here at Boston EMS and be a person who can actually help create equality and inclusion, to me, it's one of the best things that I could have ever done with myself as a career. Yes, I've been to college. Yes, I've been to different, had different opportunities in my life. But when I settled here, I realized that, you know, to someone who came from the Caribbean island, because I came from Trinidad as an adult. I came here at 21. And it took me a little bit to settle into Boston EMS in itself. But now I know this is where I want to be and this is where I'm going to be until my career ends. It's a great job, great opportunity, and I'm pretty sure everyone here on this forum can say the same.
No, I love it. And I think you make a good point, and I don't think it's a coincidence. It's why the three of you are with me today, that you're all EMTs, but you've all done and have gone above and beyond in your role as EMTs to provide additional services, to be, you know, certainly supportive to your colleagues and those that you work with, but also through that, it helps certainly deliver better services to the residents who are calling in their time of need. And Roger, as you said, I think we have this philosophy in my city council office, you know, whoever's calling, they may be calling with what seems insignificant, but for them, it's the biggest thing that's happened to them all day. And when you respond with that front of mind, you do provide that high quality of service. So in all of these community impact series, every conversation I've had in this setting, I ask this question, you know, if there was something that you could change overnight, if you had a magic wand, when we think about the pandemic, we think about, you know, regular, everyday, sort of normal times, you know, what could we do in a different way? You know, what's that magical change that we could make that would either improve delivery of service, change the impact of something on our communities across the city? Like, what's that magic wand moment that you might be interested in or wish that we could do? So this wishful thinking, hopeful thinking about the future. I'm going to start with Pat.
I think as far as wishful thinking, I think COVID put a lot of things into perspective. I mean, this week, the reason why we're meeting is EMS week, and that's about EMS providers. And myself, Roger, Felicia aren't doing a whole lot of direct patient care anymore. Roger more so than Felicia and I is treating patients. But there's folks that every single day put one foot in front of the other and get in ambulances for decades. And that road is just as noble as the one that we chose doing different things. But they are the face, and they really are EMS week. We're honoring them. We're members of that organization in this department. But I wouldn't change a whole lot when it comes to retrospectively looking at the last year. What I would change is depth. Watching our membership and being out in the road as a supervisor, put PPE on every single call. I never thought I would see a time in my career where crews would long for a mundane call, would just love to do a homeless person that just wants to go to the hospital, that doesn't have COVID, that doesn't require PPE, that doesn't require. There was just so many added steps on the back of the actual physical on the ground, boots on the ground workforce. That's what I would change. There was no relief for these folks. They grinded, and they're still grinding now with daily changing policies and updates and risk factors, far more exposed to COVID-19. And that's what I would change. I would change that we actually had the ability to get them some relief. We don't. Our organization is, you know, minuscule compared to other public safety organizations in Boston. And we run a service based on high volume, high turnover, quick care, compassionate care, on to the next. And when you put barriers in the way, like getting dressed, donned and doffed into PPE on a majority of the calls for months, that slows our service down. And our membership felt that. And programs like ours and like Felicia's, the goal was to keep them operational and keep these folks head in the game. And if we got to tap them on the shoulder and say, you need a few minutes out or a few days out, we're going to give it to them because they deserve it, but because we need to take care of them too. So I wouldn't change it, but I'd love to be able to offer some relief that we can't quite yet.
No, that's fantastic. And I think that this idea of celebrating, this week as EMS week, but celebrating and recognizing the grind that's happening every single day. And, yes, absolutely. The goal needs to be, finding some relief from that grind, because it's been a really long year. And just, want to extend my appreciation to all of you for participating in that grind and working your way through it. And obviously it doesn't end. It's 24/7, 365, and appreciate that. Felicia, talk to me a little bit about that magic wand. What are some of the things that, we could do in a better way, in a different way, that we could add to the scope, especially when we think about all that you're doing?
I think the department as a whole, especially the EMTs and the medics that were out there during the whole pandemic, they handled everything to the best of their ability, and they did an awesome job. If it was possible, I would have liked to have some kind of outlet for them in each, well, call it a house, but in each station. Not all the trucks have stations. That's a problem. Some of the trucks could go back to their stations even for the little few minutes that they had and relax. But we have a lot of homeless trucks where they leave a main station and then they're just out on the road the entire time. So they don't have that downtime other trucks do, where they can just go and kick off their shoes for a second, sit down on a couch or whatever. I would like to have had a way for them to go back and relax. Okay, they can't make it to classes, but if there was something in a station for them where they can go and work out a little bit, weights or something, or just anything that they could do just to stay active for a few minutes, just to get a little bit of stress off, that would have been great, I think, for them. But they did an awesome job as a whole.
Yeah, no, I appreciate that. And certainly we need, when we think about the city's needs, and I'm certainly also thinking about, because we're in the midst of our city's budget process and, understanding the needs of Boston EMS, the idea of houses, instead of the street sweepers going by now, the need for those independent houses across the city for your trucks is really important, because, oftentimes the trucks, although I would say that, the trucks are sometimes just parked on the street and sort of public spaces, the call volume is so high that there's this constant motion without an opportunity for a break. And figuring that out, I think, is really important for us to do as a city when we think about the service. Roger, I'm gonna leave this last question with you. This sort of, what are the things that we can do in a different way? And it's not necessarily a criticism or a critique, but where, if there's magic involved, what can we do?
I'm gonna say we're facing more than one crisis here in the city. We have the pandemic. Obviously, we're a medical department, and we focus on medical. We also have the racial crisis that we're also dealing with within the city. Those are some of the important stuff that we can focus on to try and create opportunities for people who are going to be. We live in a city where the majority of people in the city are people of color, and they're going to be struggling just as much as everyone else around the country, and even more so in the areas where they have been already struggling, calling us as their first line of defense before the pandemic, and having to call us as the only person who they know who would come at that time. We are EMTs. We work hard, and everyone knows this, not just us, all of the other agencies. However, we are the last one for people to recognize and talk about in our job. What is the most important thing for me, and if I could wave a wand right now, I would change the way people see Boston EMS and make us not just a Boston EMS agency, but one of the main public agency within Boston EMS for public service. Because as you can see, during the COVID-19 pandemic, we were the one that was always out there. Yes, we have other agencies within the city, and I love to work with them and work alongside them, but they as well can understand and recognize the job that we do here at Boston EMS. Even the police and fire call us savers, because we also help them pull out of some of the calls that they may be in that they don't know how to come through. And we're always here to pull them out, and pull everyone out in that moment. So if I can wave a magic wand, I would wave that magic wand to let people recognize what we do, because we're not someone who always put that out there.
Yeah, no, that's great. And National EMS Week gives us an opportunity to, again, celebrate all of the work that all of you do day in and day out, but it's a very small token of recognition, and we certainly have to do more. And so I'm grateful that you've brought us to that. You know, Roger, I know that you are doing some training today. Pat, you're in your office. And Felicia, you are somewhere off-site, not at an official EMS building. So I'd love for, as we wrap up our conversation this afternoon, talk about the partnership you have with the place that you're tuning in from.
We have developed a partnership over the year as EMS with the Phoenix. It's a nonprofit. It's a national gym kind of recovery. I wouldn't call it actual gym. They do all kinds of events all over the country where people in recovery have some place to go, an outlet that they can gear their and focus all their emotions and everything that they need to get off of them, and to work out. I guess it's kind of hard to explain unless you know about it and are in it. But the Phoenix is in Boston. We have a gym. There's rock climbing. There's all kind of events that we do in CrossFit where people come together regardless of where they're from, what they do, who they are. And their motto is 40 hours of continued sobriety if you want to participate in their events. When you come here, you don't use any language that's harmful or offensive to anybody. And one of the main reasons that I started coming here is because as an EMT, I became I stopped feeling, pretty much. I stopped feeling that people were people. People were just calls. You would go to a call and then you move on to the next call. But when you come to the Phoenix, there are a lot of people that are in recovery that have come from different programs, and you work out as one, and there is no boundary between them. So it's refreshing to see that people that we do pick up in the street, that there is a way for them to rise above what we see them as. And at the end of the tunnel, there is a light for them. So we do see people who have come from, I guess, living on the streets to working out and making something of themselves. And it's a good place for everybody to be as one.
I think that's very beautifully said there. And I know the Phoenix, we think about, the rising from the ashes. And I've spent some time with you at the Phoenix, and truly there is a deep connection to humanity there. And, the relationship between those seeking recovery and allies of those seeking recovery, it really is a special place. And I'm glad that you're tuning in from there today. And I think that, thinking about humanity, thinking about connections to one another, thinking about the work that you do as EMTs every single day, helping our residents that are in crisis, training those that are going to help our residents who are in crisis in their time of need. I'm just very grateful that you took some time to spend with me and to share your work with those that are viewing at home. I certainly hope anyone that tuned in today that has an interest in Boston EMS to take a look at it as a career, especially if you are just graduating from high school or just graduating from college, or at an impasse in your life and wondering, is there an opportunity for me to give back, to be connected to those in need and offer services and help to people who are in need. And Boston EMS become a paramedic, become an EMT, commit to a life of service here in the city of Boston. I think it'd be great. We're always looking for wonderful people to do this work. Felicia, Roger, Pat, I'm so excited that you were with us today to share a little bit of your time. Thank you for your work and your commitment to our city. Happy National EMS Week. Bye, everybody.
Thank you.